Okay, let's get right into it. The most common question I'm seeing for sure is, DM, what is the best class? Can you do a class tier list, etc.? Now, this is for the people that want an answer for a class tier list. I'm going to tell you right now for a fact that I don't believe there is a best class. I think in these type of games, you're going to need everyone. You're going to need a monk. You're going to need a wizard. You're going to need a demon hunter. You're going to need all of these. Not only because war bands, you're going to want separate classes so that way you're not fighting over loot, but also because each class has individualized buffs. So if you're thinking, I'm just going to go and pick whatever's in the S tier, we're going to have 4 of those in the S tier, and then we're just going to row the game with having 4 barbarians, 4 crusaders, 4 necromancers, whatever it may be. That is a very poor strategy and won't get you very far. Just a heads up, okay? However, this is a common question and people are wanting answers, so let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, I want to start with what I believe is probably going to be one of the least played classes, and that is a monk, okay? So if you look at a monk, I'm going to be placing monk in sort of the A-B tier. Okay, for the reason for right now, I'm going to be putting in the B tier to start. I think monk is going to be one of the least played classes, if not the least played class, and let's actually look very briefly here at the guide that I have available. Now, the monk's identity, as people say, is all about AoE effects, combinations, and shielding your teammate while being extremely mobile. So if you're looking for a class in particular that is going to be your mobile support, that's probably the class, because I'm going to be playing Necromancer, who's a little bit more of a support, okay? And I'm going to be talking about where I think that support falls on the list as compared to monk in just a moment. However, the monk itself is going to be more mobile than the necromancer. If you play any of the other Diablo games, you can normally are used to the monk warping all around the map. So if you're wanting somebody who's a little bit more of a martial artist and is a little bit more of a support, that's probably going to be your B tier support. And the only reason I put the monk in the B tier, I could put it in the A tier, is because I believe the necromancer is another one such support role that might actually be a little bit better in the monk. And the reason I'm bringing this person up in particular, if we scroll down, I want to show you one necromancer item that I think is going to make the necromancer even better. If we go to chest and you look at parting gift here, this item, Bone Armor, now grants you and all nearby party members charges of damage immunity, even which prevents all damage from a single hit. This is a extraordinary legendary item that is going to be a big game changer. Allowing everyone on your team to absorb hits from PvE bosses, I think, is quite good. And for that reason alone, just with that item, I think that actually makes the necromancer slightly better than the monk. But I'm willing to admit that it could be this type of situation where maybe the monk is right up there with the necromancer. Again, things are in beta, and I think that there's already been proven. There's a data mine showing there's shifting around some of this as well. Now, if we're talking about supports, there is one other such support that seems to be what everyone is considering definitely an S tier type of character, which would be the Crusader. The Crusader in particular is, from what I'm hearing from the top beta players, Echo Hack, a shout out to him, for example, is he's saying you don't want the Necromancer and Crusader in the same party because they're filling the same row of sort of that support DPS type of row. So if you're considering between a Necromancer and a Crusader, at the moment, the Crusader is actually considered to be one of the 2 best classes currently in the game. It's considered one of the top, both because the Crusader has this ability that's like a horse that can constantly run around on the map and catch up to people and attack them down, but also for the buffs. And I watched a lot of the Crusader footage. There's some really cool abilities, like you have the shield that constantly floats around you, sort of like the old Hammerden style, and it looks really annoying to deal with in PvP. And I've seen even a free-to-play person in PvP that was dominating using the Crusader, and we all, when we were watching the gameplay footage on my stream, we all thought it was a well until we realized he was free-to-play fighting other wells and still doing quite well. I think Crusader is going to be S tier if they keep Crusader like they did in the beta. Let's talk about another S tier real quick, and I'm going to put this Barbarian up there. Barbarian seems to be what maybe is the best class out of all of them, and that's not just for popularity's sake. There seems to be a lot of gap closers in PvP. Gap closers are highly important. Anyone who's played games like League of Legends, Wild Rift, things like that, knows mobility is key, especially on the battlefield, and I think having that mobility as a Barbarian is going to be a big deal. But also, if you look at Barbarian's abilities as well, you look at their legendaries, they have some pretty good legendaries that are going to work. For instance, the legs here, will be very important for when you're grouping with people. Look at these legs. These are swift-wing legs. Sprint now also increases the movement speed of nearby allies. This is going to be really important because you're going to be grouping up always at least with a team of 4, and being able to boost the movement speed of all your teams is going to help them move along those rifts that you guys are farming together quicker. And remember, it's all about how fast can you farm the rifts so you can get more rifts down per hour, and movement speed is going to be a big part of that, which is why we could probably argue classes like Monk that are so mobile maybe deserve to be more in the A tier. And I know other people's tier lists are saying that they probably are all right in the same tier. They're all right about, just about the same level. And I can understand that argument, but I want to break down the argument a little bit further for people for the discussion's sake. Now, Demon Hunter, I want to put in the A tier, but I could potentially be convinced to bump up to the S tier. Why am I putting in the A tier? Because Demon Hunter might be the best PvE single target DPS as it currently stands from the beta. However, I myself like to see classes that are insane DPS like Barbarian, Crusader, for instance. More so Barbarian, but also provides other utility to the team, where the Demon Hunter is really kind of hyper-focused on damage. Now, you're still going to need one of these Demon Hunters definitely in your team, okay? Because of how much damage they're providing, you're going to want one of them to help you, especially if you're playing a class like the Necromancer or Monk. It might be really good to party up with someone that's a Demon Hunter in order to have more sustained DPS with you at all times if you're playing more of a supportive type of class. And we can't forget about DPS, because DPS is going to be very, very important. And I actually want to bring up and put Wizard. Now, Wizard, this is hard because what I want to do here probably at the end is put everyone more like this and say that everyone's sort of the same here. Wizard doesn't seem to be as popular, and the only reason that I would be argued to see the list a little bit more like this is because, well, the Monk's being outshined by people like the Necromancer and Crusader when it comes to support, in my own personal opinion. I could be wrong, it could be biased, okay? And the Wizard is being outshined by people that provide more than just DPS, by people like the Barbarian. You see, the Wizard is all about AoE damage, combinations, etc., and might arguably be the highest damage in the entire game, but has a really high skill ceiling. It is difficult to play, especially since we're going to be playing on mobile, and ping is going to come into play as well a good amount too. I can't reliably put the Wizard in S tier, even though as much as I might want to, as this is the class I want it to be. And if I put it in the A tier, I know I'm competing against other classes that are providing DPS that might be easier to play. So the Wizard myself, I'm going to put it this way, I think is an A tier, but if you have bad ping, or you're going to be playing on a server that's not close to you, that play with friends, or you're just kind of clunky with your hands, I think it's going to drop down to a B tier. But for now, I think we'll go ahead and leave Wizard in the A tier. Now, I'm more than willing to admit that this tier list is not 100% accurate or perfect, but it's just from the information that I've been getting so far from the studies I've done and from the people I've talked to on the inside. So I'm going to need to hone this information with what you guys have played with both in the beta as well as the information you've come up. So if you disagree with any of this tier list, leave a polite comment as to why you disagree, and please let me know the reasoning behind it so we can rehone this list and have it better for launch. Don't forget to join the Discord, which I'm going to have all that information in the pinned description, because I think it's going to be highly important that we all get together and are making conversations. Just yesterday, we had a voice chat for several hours with all of the people from the Diablo Immortal, just Discord, just chatting with me, and that was a good deal of enjoyment. With all that being said, I'll see you guys in that Discord. I love you all, and I'll see you on the next video as well.